Discussing our call with Tesla today. We had a call with the Tesla investor relations team, and we spoke about three main things. One is the question of transfer learning from FSD to Optimus and sort of industrial logic of it. Second, the rollout of FSD in China. And third, in general, the idea of pricing FSD as a more compelling product, maybe combined with insurance, making it more palatable for people to adopt FSD. This is not even on podcast. It's May 7, 2024. This is Crimtelco. For the day, the fund is down 3%. The market is up 20 basis points. For the year, we are down 15.5%. The market is up 7.5%. We're underperforming by 23%. So today we had a call with the investor relations team at Tesla. And before I go into the specifics, I want to say that it was a pretty sobering call. I think this was probably the worst call we had in terms of the impression and the morale and the body language that we felt from them. Now, this is only one person, and it's always difficult to judge a whole company based on one conversation. So we don't want to go too far here, but just as a note, it seems like the morale is really low, and the reason the reason we feel like that is in the conversation. Like when you talk to investor relations people, you always have to calibrate yourself and say, look, these people are just one snapshot of the company, and certainly they can't express how the whole company feels or anything like that. However, that's also what they are, a snapshot of the company. So if an IR is excited, then you can feel that there is excitement in the company. And when an IR is not excited, then you can feel that they're not excited. And this is how we felt today. So again, nothing against the actual person. It doesn't even matter who it was and things like that. But this particular conversation just didn't convey optimism. The conversation didn't convey any kind of, hey, we're here to conquer the world or any of that stuff that typically counts for what Tesla stands for. Now, this could be also, of course, flipped around into a positive because this is exactly where Tesla stands. Okay? Tesla is culturally at the bottom. That's why Musk is firing people. That's why there is so much turmoil in the company, because there is a lot of complacency. There is quite a bit of maybe not laziness, but again, I think complacency is the right word. We've been doing well. We just keep going with the flow. And Tesla is just not the kind of company where going with the flow is an option. When you're changing the goalpost every 6 months or 12 months, when you're trying to conquer the car market, when you're trying to change the way people behave in transportation, behave at home with their solar energy and things like that, when you try to change the behavior in terms of FSD adoption, all those things are they're not easy to do, and your competition is complacent. That's why you have a chance. And we get the feeling that there is quite a bit of complacency also within the ranks of Tesla. And hopefully this can be fixed by Musk. This is definitely important. Another thing I want to say is I think we need better investor relations people. Actually, we need better business people at Tesla. And in particular, people that understand robotics. I think robotics it's not just a field that is fancy to talk about or some sort of, well, it's AI and let's all talk about AI and the future of AI and things like that. There are some real tangible things about robotics. For example, one of the questions that I asked, transfer learning. Like, can we actually transfer the weights that are trained in FSD onto Optimus? Is there a competitive advantage? Because the way we see it is Tesla has a massive advantage in terms of training for driving, because Tesla has a fleet of millions of cars and cameras that took the pictures, the images of the cars driving, and imitation learning and other techniques have been used to actually train the models to drive the car. So that is a massive competitive advantage that started 5, 6, 7 years ago with Andrej Karpathy building a perception stack, and later on people coming on board, whether it's Ashok and his team or not, that's not so clear, but the planning team, the AI end-to-end learning approach of Tesla has definitely bear fruit. We can see it. FSD is amazing, and it's state of the art when it comes to robot driving. Now, can this be transferred to Optimus? Is there a competitive advantage in terms of having the data pipeline and the continuous learning paradigm that comes with end-to-end learning? I mean, end-to-end learning, for example, requires a differentiable stack, right? These are simple things, difficult things to solve, mathematical problems, but they're soluble. I mean, these are soluble problems in a sense that you can apply them. You don't need an army of PhDs, but somebody had to come up with, let's say, differentiability of the end-to-end stack to make it end-to-end and to optimize across all the modules of, let's say, perception, mapping, planning, dynamics, and things like that. So again, one of the questions that comes up here is, for example, Google DeepMind has openly stated, their head of robotics, that they found that there's transfer learning within the Palm-E ecosystem. So robots are learned on different types of tasks and embodiments, and they actually have better performance if you combine all the weights into one big model. So there is some sort of almost meta learning happening within robotics. And these are important questions that I think Tesla should be tackling. It's possible that the AI professionals at Tesla are tackling them, but it's not clear from this conversation. This would be something that we would like to discuss deeper, and we believe that the IR professionals need to have that type of level of understanding, at least on a conceptual level, to convey that to investors and also to feedback back to the teams and have a conversation. Another point, let's say Brian Catanzaro at Nvidia is making the point at GTC that this is now the time of large-scale engineering. This is the time of product development for AI. The time is come to, you don't need to have too many PhDs in math and probability. You need more people who can actually transfer complex, difficult engineering problems. And Denis Hassabis has said the same thing. We are in a time now, actually, Tesla's on the right vector when it comes to all these things, but they need to be discussed. And we felt like this conversation with the IR just didn't give us the kind of feeling that we would expect from a company that is at the forefront of all these things. To be fair, if I spoke with the investor relations person at Google, I'm sure I wouldn't get the same feedback either. And I once spoke with a business manager at DeepMind that, quite frankly, had no idea about all these things. So there is, of course, a massive knowledge gap between business people and intelligence. I mean, AI people. So that. But again, I think the standards of Tesla are so high, always been high, always will be high, that we can expect more from them. We just let's leave that. Let's leave it at that for that. This lack of interest, lack of knowledge, or lack of understanding within the company. Again, lack of interest and knowledge by the side of the IR, or whether it's lack of understanding of the company. That's not clear. But what's absolutely clear is that this question wasn't answered properly, and that's a cause of concern. The second thing he spoke about that also wasn't answered adequately is an idea that we have, which is that we would like to see Tesla starting to think about a better way to monetize FSD, and one way would be to bundle it with insurance. Now, the idea is, of course, it could be even more general, like it could be like an Amazon Prime account where you bundle, you pay a certain subscription, and then you get a bunch of things as a bundle. Maybe certainly not for free, but imagine like you pay, I don't know, $50 a month, and then you get a certain amount of free supercharging, plus you get a discount on insurance, You get FSD and you get the monthly lease all in one, and it's priced such that Tesla can generate more revenue off the customer. Okay, the idea here is to start basically sort of also go the Apple way, which is start monetizing services around the hardware. This is exactly what Apple's doing. So again, these are conceptual questions. We don't expect a yes, no, black and white answer, but we expect engagement. We expect critical thought. We expect some feedback. And unfortunately, we didn't get those things. We got sort of a complacency, lazy answers. The third thing we discussed was a rollout of FSD in China. Now, again, this is an interesting question, and maybe there's no black and white answer, but you could tackle this question and look, the Chinese market is different. We believe that software, in particular FSD in China, has much more potential than here in the West, because people in China are not as much married to the concept of owning a car, driving a car, things like that, but they have transportation needs as much as we have, maybe even more. They don't have very well-developed public transportation systems. People are scattered around. There's lots of people, lots of traffic, lots of complexity. So FSD could be a phenomenal solution. Maybe FSD could be used as pilot project in certain towns. Maybe FSD could be rolled out as a bundle to lower insurance premiums. Maybe there could be a deal with an insurance company in China to lower lower insurance premium bundling. So this goes back to the second point we made. We believe that there's a massive opportunity to bundle FSD and insurance, because the data is going to show, it's already there, but I can see it by my own experience, that the feeling that you get is that the driving is much safer because you have less degrees of freedom, actually, not like a human. The algorithmic driving is like it says, it's algorithmic, so you can almost predict the accident rate a priori, because you're deciding how the driving will happen in the algorithm. Now, of course, it's end-to-end learned, and there's a bit of an interpretability problem, but this goes back to the question in our first point, which is, okay, what exactly are we doing? For example, on interpretability. Okay, this is very important. Interpretability of end-to-end learning algorithms is a massive question, because it opens up an avenue for the insurance business to be more interesting. So again, like, there's so many things one can discuss around the rollout of FSD in China, the rollout of FSD here in the West, in conjunction with better pricing, better bundling, for example, more interesting bundles, incentivize people monetarily to adopt FSD. Those are questions that we expect engagement in and feedback. To summarize, 3 points we discussed. One is the transfer learning question from FSD to Optimus, and the idea that we have, we've seen transfer learning in Palm E. We've seen the concept of large-scale end-to-end learning being very successful in terms of deploying AI products. This is now the age of engineering and deploying AI products. So hopefully Tesla can take advantage. Unfortunately, this wasn't discussed with enough engagement from the IR team. The second point we discussed was the potential for rolling out FSD in terms of bundling, and a more interesting bundle and a more interesting, let's say, product offering. Unfortunately, that was not well covered by the IR team. And third, we discussed the potential for a better or more interesting or more creative rollout of FSD in China. In particular, the idea of interpretability of the model and algorithmic driving, which could lower the potential accident rate and therefore also lower the lower insurance premiums. So these are all concepts that we believe are incredibly interesting and should be discussed with more engagement, should be discussed with more feedback, enthusiasm, and all of those things. And unfortunately, we didn't see that from the IR team. And that's, I guess, the last thing we want to say, which is really sort of the lack of engagement by the IR team, the lack of knowledge also. There seems to be a lack of interest, a lack of enthusiasm, a lack of knowledge, maybe things that, in our opinion, shouldn't be the case. And we are encouraging Tesla as a company to get more engaged, to be more on top of things, to be more in the thick of things,